So joining me now is the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He's a member of the Banking Committee, too, by the way. It's Democratic Senator Bob Menendez. Senator Menendez, let me start with the Banking Committee. I invited you on before all of this happened. Have you gotten a briefing over the weekend, and what's your sense of what we can expect tomorrow morning?
Well, Chuck, I have not gotten a briefing yet, but I think that your previous panel pretty much had it right on. The question will be, number one is what are the excesses beyond the insured amounts, and the ability to deal with those and the companies in terms of meeting payrolls. The broader question will be, should the regulators have been on the ball to ensure that this bank could not have had this risk? And what else is out there in this regard? As someone who sat in 2008 in the Banking Committee when we met with that last crisis, the goal is to try to avoid crisis, not to deal with it, and that'll be questions that will be raised.
Just a simple way, are you more concerned that maybe regulators underreact or overreact here? Are you more concerned that government underreacts or overreacts?
Well, what I'm concerned is that we get it right? That doesn't mean over or underreaction. Is a question of getting it right. Did the regulators get it right? Did they allow this to take place in a way that's to be expected in the market? Or should they have been more forward-leaning in saying to this and other banks, hey, you have risk here, you need to mitigate your risk? That is something that we'll have to see in the days ahead.
Do you think the FDIC should insure more than $250,000 per deposit? Should that ever go up?
Well, it's served us well for a long time, and the question is where we are in the marketplace today. Does that make sense? Of course, that would require additional insurance proceeds in order to cover it. That's a question to look forward in the future. But, you know, at the end of the day, depositors know that they're covered up to $250,000. So they can make choices to diversify their deposits as well so that they are less at risk of anything like this.
Bottom line, it sounds like you're not ready to offer them a bailout.
Oh, I'm not ready to offer them a bailout by any stretch of the imagination. We have to see exactly everything that is pertinent to the specific set of circumstances, and to see what else is out there, if anything else is out there that we should be thinking about.
All right. Let me move to what happened to those 4 Americans this weekend. What it exposed, which is the fact that this is an administration in Mexico that has chosen a different tact in dealing with the cartels, meaning they don't want to deal with them the way the previous administration did, and they don't seem to want to work with the United States and get our help in dealing with these cartels. How do we deal with this when you have a Mexican government that may not be on the same page?
Well, this is one of our great challenges. President López Obrador talked about, when he took office, about kisses, not bullets. Well, that's not working too well. The reality is, along the border communities, it is the cartels that run the border communities, not the government of Mexico. Mexico has a responsibility, first and foremost, to its own citizens to establish safety and security within its own territory, and to those who visit its country as well. And so we need to up dramatically in our engagement with Mexico. It can't be all about economics. It has to be about safety and security as well. And I am afraid that we are headed in the wrong direction in Mexico on that, and on democracy questions as well. So this is a present danger that we have to deal with, and we have to engage the Mexicans in a way that says, you've got to do a lot more in your security. We can help them. We have intelligence, we have other information we can share, but we need them to enforce in their own country.
Do you think designating the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization helps or hurts that ability to work with the Mexican government?
Well, slapping a designation isn't in and of itself going to change anything. The question is, how do you go after the cartels? How do you dry up their money? How do you go after their leadership? How do you put them away? How do you deny visas for Mexican government officials who ultimately are not engaging in the active prosecution of the cartels? Those are some of the things that you can do that ultimately mean something at the end of the day.
How would you vote on this? It may come to a vote. Would you vote to designate these cartels terrorist organizations?
Well, that has a certain designation. We've saved that for truly terrorist organizations in the world. Certainly, they are consequential to questions of national security. I'm more interested in doing something that ultimately seeks to destroy the cartels than to just name them. You know, you name them a foreign terrorist organization, that in and of itself means nothing. You ultimately go after their leadership, you jail them, you ultimately go after their money, you dry it up, you ultimately go after those who are supposed to be enforcing the law, and now you have a real consequence.
You have been critical of the new changes in border policy that Secretary Mayorkas has done at DHS. What's the alternative, and do you have, and what's your level of confidence in Secretary Mayorkas?
Well, look, this is not about Secretary Mayorkas. It's about the administration. The best part of the administration's immigration policy over the first 2 years is that they ended family detention, which proved to be a failure under both the Obama and Trump administrations as a way to deter individuals from coming. What we need is a comprehensive plan to deal with the border and what are the elements, the push and pull factors that bring people to this country. We need to have a surge at the border that deals with asylum officers, USIS, border security, that ultimately can process those who have a legitimate claim for asylum and to deport those who have no legitimate claim for asylum. We need to find legal pathways so that people don't surge to the border because they are fleeing. Because if my situation is I am in a country where staying means I will most certainly die, see my daughter raped or my son forced into a gang, I'm going to flee. Well, we need to understand that and deal with it. We need to work with Central American and the Mexican government to also be part of the solution. And lastly, we need to look at the question of temporary protective status in a way that ultimately helps us meet the challenges. The three biggest countries, by the way, Chuck, that are coming to the border now are Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua. They are dictatorships, people fleeing those dictatorships. When the administration opened up a legal pathway for those fleeing, it dramatically saw the reduction. It's just an example of what you can do in a way that both is good for the border and preserves our nation as a nation that preserves asylum. But if not, if the administration does go down this path, I am afraid that the president will become the asylum denier in chief.
Well, Senator Menendez, Democrat from New Jersey, chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. As I said, boy, we had a week, and so did you, with all the different things that are on your plate and your responsibilities. I appreciate the time. Thanks for sharing your perspective.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.